Welcome to Bridging the Achievement Gap, and thank you for joining us. Are you dreaming of having a child in the future or making plans for those already in your home? Whether you're expecting or are the parent of a young child, or perhaps are a guardian or grandparent who will be raising or mentoring a child for the first time in many years, you are keenly influential to that young person's success in life. Today, let's talk about how to enrich the parenting role, one of life's most rewarding milestones as it relates to education. Perhaps you've wondered, what determines a student's ability to learn? Who are good examples for parents to listen to and trust? What do teachers and schools do to capture their students' interests and get them to take school seriously? And most importantly, what is your role in their success? This is a critical topic, but especially so for parents whose children are African American, Hispanic, are of another ethnic minority, or are poor. Far too often, these students experience a situation called academic achievement gap. What it means in plain language is that the performance in schools by many African American, Hispanic, or poor children of any ethnicity is not as high as the performance of children who are Asian, white, or come from high-income families. This difference between high-performing and low-performing children is called the achievement gap. Take a look at a graph that illustrates this gap. As a result of low academic performance in school, many low-income Hispanic and African American students drop out of school, face high unemployment rates, earn low wages if employed at all, and get into trouble, causing incarceration at rates much higher than they represent in the general population. For those who continue with their education, their earnings are higher as they achieve higher levels of education. What can you do to boost your child's achievement? In other words, is there anything a parent can do to help bridge these achievement gaps? Yes, there is. The following 11 practices are drawn from research, professional observation, and candid interviews. They illustrate how successful parents structure their homes to encourage and support their child's learning. 1. Parents should develop their children's vocabulary from birth to kindergarten, including reading to them before they can talk. 2. Parents should establish routines for learning opportunities at home. 3. Parents should teach their children at an early age that school is one place for learning, home is another. 4. Parents and teachers need to establish multiple ways to maintain communication with each other. 5. Parents or guardians need to monitor their children's progress with schoolwork daily, give praise where warranted, arrange for help when needed. 6. Parents should demonstrate to children that learning is important, not just by what they say, but by what they do. 7. Parents should establish rules to insist that learning at home will take precedence over watching TV, playing video or online games, listening to music, or using social networks with friends on weeknights. Kids will profess the myth that they are good at multitasking, but they should not be using social networks and studying at the same time. As students get older and lessons become more challenging, their habits of not concentrating on their studies will be a major distraction for absorbing knowledge. 8. Parents should provide a suitable place for their children to learn at home. 9. Parents should seek out other resources from the community or the school to help children study effectively. 10. Parents should make trade-offs in spending money that favor learning opportunities over expensive toys, clothes, games, or other costly entertainment. 11. Parents should be lifelong learners themselves and seek out opportunities to learn other tips on parenting from magazines, books, the school, the internet, and community agencies. Where did these ideas come from? Some of them are based on research by psychologists, sociologists, and anthropologists. Other ideas come from interviews with parents of children who are performing well in schools. First, let's consider what the researchers had to say. Betty Hart and Todd R. Risley, child psychologists at the University of Kansas, published in 1995 the results of a study of 42 families they visited once a month for 3 years, recording everything that occurred between the child and the parents. They found that vocabulary growth differed sharply among the families. By age 3, some children whose parents spoke a large number of words to the child had large vocabularies, 1,100 words. Children whose parents spoke few words had smaller vocabularies, 525 words. They also found that some children by age 3 heard 500,000 encouragements and 80,000 discouragements, while other children heard 75,000 encouragements and 200,000 discouragements. There were discussions of the past and future, of feelings, of abstractions, of the way one thing causes another, all of which stimulated intellectual development. Other children had different, similar discussions, mostly directives, mostly in the present. These researchers show that language exposure in early childhood correlated strongly with academic success later on in a child's life. Hearing fewer words and lots of prohibitions and discouragements had a negative effect. Hearing lots of words and more affirmations and complex sentences had a positive effect. Jean Brooks Gunn, professor at Teachers College of Columbia University in New York, found after considering hundreds of interviews with parents and children which are more sensitive, more encouraging, less intrusive, and less detached, served to increase school readiness. She concludes that child rearing style matters. Annette LaRue, a University of Pennsylvania sociologist, along with her research assistants, observed a variety of families from different backgrounds, often staying with them for 3 weeks. Some kids were encouraged to ask questions, to engage in conversations with adults, to challenge assumptions, and negotiate rules. These families also scheduled countless activities to enhance their children's development: piano lessons, soccer games, trips to the museum. As a result, these children grow up with a sense of entitlement, which gives them a confidence in the classroom and elsewhere. Such cultural experiences translate into a distinct advantage in school and later on in the workplace. Other parents, they observed, permitted less questioning of authority, less freedom to discuss the rules and consequences. They may turn out to be nicer, they may be more polite, but in countless ways, the manner in which they are raised puts them at a disadvantage in the measures that count in contemporary American society. Now, what do parents of successful children have to say? Parent interviews conducted as part of the research in Bridging the Achievement Gap, What Successful Educators and Parents Do, provided these ideas. Jasmine York, parent of a 3rd grader at St. Hope Public School 7 Charter School in Sacramento, California, said,
"Homework is a high priority in our house. It's the first thing my children do when they get home. I let my children read to me. My husband demands that there is no TV during weeknights."
Another parent, Wendy Belton, mother of a 3rd grader and a 6th grader, said,
I'm a single parent, so it's not easy, but I check over assignments, check the school's online student information system, PowerSchool, to see their grades, attendance, and assignments that may be posted. My children do 2 to 3 hours of homework per night.
Another parent, Donna Berry, mother of a 5th grader and a kindergartner at St. Hope Public School 7, said,
Homework is an essential part of our daily routine. We spend time discussing the assignments and the daily grades. In addition, my son does extra math 5 to 10 minutes a day. He uses Kumon, after-school program, patterned after a Japanese-style learning center.
Both mother and dad help with Kumon. Both parents are African American engineers. Few of the other parents interviewed were college graduates. Alondra Thompson, parent of a 7th grader at the same St. Hope School, says she requires at least 2 hours of home study per night. Her view is,
I'm hoping to enhance my daughter's skills and to help her become more responsible for her own homework assignments so she can learn to be more independent.
Alejandra Patino, Yolanda Santiasban, Leticia Camarenza, Zenaida Gutierrez, Maria Nunez, Rosa Loes, Graciela Hernandez, Ramona Cabrera, and Carla Reyes offered examples of what they do to help their children at home. These parents from Compton, California said the following. A few of us take our children to a local public library every Saturday where they are tutored by undergraduate students from UCLA in math and other subjects from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Some purchase teaching tools like index cards, measuring tape, timetables, whiteboards, and use these tools to review what their kids learned in school. Some bought games about different U.S. states and work with their children on locations of cities and states on the map. Some find interesting games they play with their kids for vocabulary building or math skills development. So why are the opinions of these parents worthy of your attention? It's because these are parents whose children attend high-achieving, high-minority schools. These schools bridge the achievement gap in their respective counties. Research indicates that these children are more likely to continue their education and be more successfully employed. Let's hear from others now in relation to the schools their children attend. These schools, in partnership with parents, are making a difference in the way that minority children are educated. The first group of parents were African American, including Jasmine York, Wendy Belton, Donna Berry, and Alondra Thompson. Their children attended St. Hope Public School, PS7, in Sacramento, California. PS7 is a K-8 school with a small enrollment of about 375 students. This school enrolls about 78% African American and 8% Hispanic students. This is not a middle-class school. 62% of the children get free or reduced-priced lunch, an indicator of poverty. So, is PS7 a high-achieving school? Yes. The state gives schools a ranking called the Academic Performance Index, or API score, which is between 200 and 1,000. The API score for St. Hope PS7 for 2010 was 913. This is a very high score in spite of the fact that its population is mostly minority and disadvantaged. Look at the following graph and notice that the St. Hope Public School 7 scores shown here in blue were lower at first in 2004 than both African Americans and white students in Sacramento County. But soon, the scores of St. Hope Public School 7 students in 2005 exceeded those of other African American students in the county, and in 2008 exceeded the scores of white students in Sacramento County. They closed the achievement gap in 2008. By 2010, St. Hope Public School 7 scores were higher than either of the two groups, with 86% of the students testing proficient or advanced in mathematics. Our second example is Bursch Elementary School, a K-5 school in the Compton Unified School District in Compton, California. You see that this school has an API of 884, and you may notice that the API scores increased from 1999 to 2010. Over the years, the student enrollment, which had been mostly African American, has recently become increasingly Hispanic. In 2010, it was 70% Hispanic, 29% African American, and 82% of the students are disadvantaged. Look at the next graph and you will see that in 2003, the green line representing Bursch students was lower than the blue line that represents the achievement levels of other Hispanic students in Los Angeles County, LAC, on the California Standards Test in mathematics. By 2004, Bursch students closed the gap between themselves and other Hispanic students, but their scores were still below white students in Los Angeles County. By 2007, they closed the gap with the Los Angeles white students, and by 2010, their scores, at 86% proficient in mathematics, were higher than both Los Angeles County white students, 79% proficient, and other Los Angeles County Hispanic students at 56% proficient. This is the school where children of the mostly Hispanic parents attend. The third example of a high-performing, high-minority school is the Oakland Charter Academy in Oakland, California. This grade 6 through 8 middle school serves approximately 150 students. The students are 92% Hispanic, 3% Asian, 3% African American, and 1% white. Notice that Oakland Charter's API growth climbed from 425 in 2000 to 954 in 2010. On the California Standards Test in mathematics, it closed the achievement gap and created a new gap. These 3 schools are among 20 high-performing, mostly Hispanic and African American schools described in detail in the book Bridging the Achievement Gap, and the parents that were quoted in this DVD were from these high-performing schools. They reported that their children are performing well, and the school-wide data confirms this. Notice that the comments from the individual parents are very similar to the suggestions that came from the university researchers, and that is the reason why I am comfortable encouraging you to consider their comments. Before I close, let me also make a few comments about resources and policies. In his book, Intelligence and How to Get It, Richard Nisbett explains how culture and society play a role in shaping a person's intelligence. He disagrees with the idea that people inherit all of their intelligence from their parents. He contends that what parents, teachers, and other adults do matter. Nisbett's book quotes researchers mentioned earlier in this DVD. Web-based resources include www.education.com. At this website, parents have free access to thousands of articles, can print out thousands of learning resources, can use a school finder tool to learn more about their current schools, or research new ones, have access to academic services including online tutoring services, educational games, and online reading programs. www.khanacademy.com was created by Salman Khan to provide learners free lectures on a variety of topics ranging from arithmetic to differential equations. Khan's topics include chemistry, physics, and other subjects. With over 2,400 videos, Khan says that it is the most exhaustive collection of instruction on the internet. From Wikipedia, Kumon is a math and reading enrichment program. Students do not work together as a class, but they progress through the curriculum at their own pace, moving on to the next level when they've achieved mastery of the previous level. Students are often guided by tutors to develop their mathematical and reasoning skills. Mastery is defined as speed, using a standard completion time, and accuracy. They take an achievement test at the end of each level. This presentation highlights the contents of the new book, Bridging the Achievement Gap: What Successful Educators and Parents Do. It explains the achievement gap and why it's important in Chapter 1. It identifies and describes 20 high-achieving Hispanic and African American schools in Chapter 2 and Chapter 7. It describes successful teaching practices in Chapter 3. It contains additional parent testimonies about successful practices in Chapter 4. And in Chapter 8, it describes more than 24 books, research papers, and websites designed for use by educators, policymakers, and parents interested in closing the achievement gap. Children are eligible for school choice when the ESEA Title I school they attend has not made adequate yearly progress in improving student achievement for 2 consecutive years. Any child attending such a school must be offered the option of transferring to a public school in the district, including a public charter school, unless such an option is prohibited by state law. The No Child Left Behind law requires that priority in providing school choice be given to the lowest achieving children from low-income families. A parent, Miss Rosa Rodriguez of the Oakland Charter Academy, said that although she only had the benefit of an 8th grade education herself, she knows that it is her responsibility to get her children enrolled in a good school, and she is confident that she can select a school that is best for her children. If you are parents or guardians of young children, plan for their intellectual development, much as you do for their food, clothing, and shelter. To do this, use the research findings and experiences of other successful parents mentioned earlier in this DVD. It's never too early to start your preparation, even if it is prior to the birth of your child. Furthermore, our poor or Hispanic or African American minority children will make a better contribution to our state and nation if indeed we take the time early in their development to consistently guide them. With the encouragement of dedicated parents who work with their children's teachers and schools, they can not only bridge the gap, but become the best and most productive and successful people possible. The nearly 500-page book, Bridging the Achievement Gap: What Successful Educators and Parents Do by Rex Fortune, is available on Amazon.com.